Hi, my name is Emily Wood, and for my research paper, I wrote Identity in the Digital Age, a look into ID 2020. And before I jump into the paper, I just wanted to give a quick backstory as to what led me to research this for this paper. So this past summer, I had the opportunity to be an intern at Accenture Consulting, and part of the internship was we got to go to a leadership conference in St. Charles, Illinois. And while we were there, we had a presentation kind of all the different projects and innovations that Accenture was a part of, and one of them happened to be this project called ID 2020. And so we were just asking super in-depth questions, and the MC was just unable to answer them. So we were actually able to get one of the directors on the project from Accenture on a Skype call to kind of answer our questions and go into more depth about what this project is. So first, we need to examine why digital identification is necessary. So in the preliminary research of this issue, ID 2020 noticed a few major challenges of how identification is managed currently. So there are currently 1.1 billion people in the world without adequate identification. And this affects them greatly as they're unable to obtain vaccinations and other medical requirements or even obtain bank loans. And it's disabling them from being contributing members of society. And so what ID 2020 seeks to do is to erase these issues and provide an ethical and secure approach to digital identification. And so the way that they're able to do that is utilizing modern technologies such as blockchain and biometrics, which were discussed later in the paper. And so then the beginning of this project started with Dakota Gruner in 2017, and she was the assistant to the CEO of Gavi, which is a nonprofit focused on the distribution of vaccines to developing nations. And so she was on a trip with the company to Cameroon and noticed that the number of the vaccinations that they had or were giving didn't line up with the number of vaccinations that they had given through the census. And so they realized that there was this huge identity gap. And so ID 2020 seeks to close that identity gap. And so the founding partners of this project, along with Gavi, were Accenture Consulting, just due to their knowledge and research in the area of blockchain, Microsoft, and the Rockefeller Center. And so this project was first announced at the UN's 2017 ID 2020 summit, where they unveiled the earliest prototype in the for the digital identity model. And so what this prototype uses is it uses blockchain, which has kind of become a buzzword in the technology industry recently. And so a lot of people don't necessarily know what blockchain is. So SAP defines blockchain as a reliable, difficult to hack record of transactions and who owns what. So in simpler terms, it's a system where each record is connected to a system of record or a previous record. So if this data was a physical object, it would most closely resemble just a link of chains, with each link of chain being a piece of data in the link. And so it's also allowed for like cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin to be developed. And so the reason why blockchain works for this specific project is that it provides a link between all the relevant pieces of data necessary to construct a digital identity. And Benku founder described that the value of blockchain was an opportunity to create a self-sovereign identity which gives sole control to the user. And ID 2020, on the side of privacy and security, uses biometrics such as fingerprints, facial and voice recognition, and iris scanning as a further measure of security. And so the project operates off of 4 core requirements. They want a system that's private, portable, persistent, and personal. The identity needs to be private in a sense that the user has sole control over their digital identity and who has access to those records. And the identity needs to be portable, allowing for the user to easily access their records no matter where they are. And then it needs to be persistent, creating an identity that will last throughout a user's lifetime. And it also needs to be personal, using unique identifiers to identify each individual. And so with this in mind, the first prototype was created with a partnership between Accenture and Microsoft, and it seeks to combine the power of biometrics and blockchain to provide a global identity system. So the way that it first works is the user will register through an enrollment station. And so here they'll do all the biometrics to gain fingerprints, retina scans, and other factors of recognition. And then these create a unique identifier for the individual. So with the vulnerable nature of this information, these identifiers follow multiple security protocols to ensure the safety of the data. And so then this information is recorded on the blockchain as an index. And then it is kind of compiled into this app, which gives the user access through QR codes. And they have access to their public keys and everything. So it's all in the user's control. And so when looking at this project, the idea of a digital identity actually raises a lot of concerns. And so I kind of did research on different different areas or organizations that have used digital identity. And actually countries like Estonia have already used digital identification processes for their citizens, and about 67% of Estonians use this digital identity regularly. And the reason that this has been so strong is because of user acceptance. And we've seen it in so many industries where kind of a digital identification, like a plane ticket or a credit card, this is just becoming much more of the norm. And so ID 2020 is the first step towards a fully digital identification process. And so as this project continues to develop a solution, there will be more security concerns that arise. However, with emerging technologies and innovations, these security concerns could easily become a thing of the past. And I just think ID 2020 is just the beginning of an evolution of how digital has the impact to affect more elements of everyday living.